Hi, welcome back. This is lesson 4 for our acrylic painting class. And last time we worked on a warm painting. We did a cool painting before that. Now we're going to work on something different. We're going to start to go in a little freer direction, and we're going to work on a complementary scheme today. And so if we look at our color wheel here, this is the one I made. Complementary colors are colors that live across from each other on the color wheel. So like orange and blue are complementary colors, and red and green are complementary colors. I got a color wheel right here to show it even better. So, anything that's directly across from it is a complementary color. Purple and yellow, red and green, blue and orange are complementary colors. So for today, what we're going to do is we're only going to use those complementary colors. And we want to use those today because what we're going to paint, we want it to really pop out of the painting. So let's get to sketching it out, and you'll get an idea of what we're going to do. So what we want to do to start out with is we want to section our canvas here off into 9 different squares. And if you want it to be perfect, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you want it to be perfect, it's 9 by 12. So that means we'd have a mark at 4 inches and a mark at 8 inches. And you could draw a line straight across for that. It doesn't have to be exact though. Just kind of make it into thirds either way. And then it's 9 inches this way, so you can just make a mark at 3 inches and another one at 6, and then just draw a straight line across for those. But, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't really matter that much. Just kind of eyeball it a little bit so that it's sectioned off into 9 different squares or rectangles here. All right. From here, what I want you to do is I want you to put a word in here or initials or something. Limit it to 3 or 4 letters and make them into bubble letters. And if you don't know how to do bubble letters, I'm going to do an L right here. You kind of just make an L and then make another L inside of it and then just kind of connect it like that. So I'll make an L. Make an O right here and put another O in the middle of it, and then I want a V, and an E so that it says love, just for fun. I want something a little cute. I'm going to bring that all the way down here. I want it over here like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't really matter that much. You can always erase it a little bit and try again. Ooh, that eraser didn't work out too well, but we'll get it. And we're just going to paint over this anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So now I want you to get out your colors. I want you to pick out what colors you want to use. So in our color wheel here, pick out 2 colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So you could go green and red. You could go purple, yellow. Like the indigo is more like the reddish or the yellow orange. The violet is more like the true yellow. I'm going to go with blue and orange though. And the blue that I'm going to use is the cerulean blue. And I'm going to use just a little bit of ultramarine, and then we're going to use the naphthol red and the yellow to make our orange. So on my palette here, just going to squirt out a little bit of yellow that I will then mix in to make some orange. Use that little bit to mix in some orange. And then I want the cerulean blue to be most of my blue, but we're going to use a little bit of this other one to change it a little bit. And the other color I want you to get out is I want you to get out some white. Let's put a little white in there somewhere. There we go. All right. Got all these set up in my palette. We're pretty much ready to go. So now that we're ready to paint, I want you to pick out which one you want for the background and which one you want for the letters. So for the background, I'm going to use blue, and for the letters, I'm going to use orange. But for each square, I want there to be a different blue or a different orange. And by that, you can use, like, for one square, we could use just a little bit of this blue, of the cerulean blue. We'll put that in one square here. But then the next square should be either a little lighter and you would add a little bit of white to make it lighter, or a little bit darker and you'd add some of that ultramarine blue to it. But let's get this one painted in first, and then you'll see what I mean when we go on to the next one. Need some more water on there for sure. And don't paint over the letters, because of course those are going to be orange. But don't worry too much about going over the lines. You know, you're going to go over the lines a little bit here and there. That's what the what painting's fine with. You can always just repaint it if it really bothers you. Let's get all of this painted in the cerulean blue. Right to the line there and get it all painted in. Get rid of all that white. You don't want to see any white. And you might want to put something down on your table so you don't paint on your table. Or you could do this on the easel. I just thought it'd be easier for you guys to see it today if I put it down on the table. Alright, so I've got that in one square. Now the next square, I want it to be, close to that same color but a little lighter. So you could mix it up in your palette, or you could mix it right on the canvas, is what I'm going to do. Either one works. However you feel comfortable doing it. But sometimes I like to mix it right on the canvas. And by doing that, I've got the paint here, and then I dip it a little bit into my white and kind of just spread it around on there and mix it on the canvas. This way I don't have to mix up a whole nother color. But it is tricky to get it so that it's all the same shade. So you have to keep going back and forth a lot with it to get it all the same color. So sometimes, maybe it'll be easier to do it in the palette. But I wanted to show you how to do it either way. So we'll get a little more blue on there. Make sure it mixes in with the white that's on there. We don't want it to be exactly like the blue we already put down over here. You want to be able to tell the difference between the two. Let's get some more white in there then. So you can see that nice line there of the light cerulean blue and the darker one. And make sure to mix it all over to get it so that it's nice and even. We don't have any streaky bits. And we'll put in a little more water on there. Looks pretty good. And then, so the next one I want to do, I want it to be a little darker. So I'm going to wash my brush off a little bit and make it a little darker. This time though, I'm going to mix it in my palette, and I'll scoop out a little bit of color over here, put it over here, and add some of that ultramarine blue to it to make it a little darker. We want a little darker even than that. Looks good about there. We need some water on our brush, and we'll paint this part in. You see how that's a little darker. The idea is we want to have every square be just a little different than the other one, than the next one. So they'll all be a different shade of blue and a different shade of orange. And make the colors really pop and stand out. Make a cool looking painting. There we go. Getting this going. And just do your best to paint around the letters. All right, so I've got 3 of them done. I am just going to go ahead and paint the other ones in so you get an idea, but you don't have to sit here and watch me paint the whole thing. But just make sure each one is a little different. Add a little white to it or a little darker of another color. Like if I was going with purple, you could change it, you know, make one a little more violet purple, make one a little more indigo purple, make it lighter with some white, however you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint in the rest of my blue here, and we'll see what it looks like after that. And I've got the background complete. It's still kind of wet in some spots, and you want to make sure that the background is completely dry. So of course, like, paint in the entire background first and let it dry. It's got to dry at least 15 minutes, probably closer to a half hour. So it's a good time to go get a snack and come back in a little bit, and we'll finish up this painting. So my painting's dry now, mostly. You want to make sure it's dry though before you start painting in the other part, because the complementary colors, when they mix together, they either make a gray or a brown color, and we don't want that in our beautiful, vibrant, colorful painting here. So I'm going to start mixing up some of the orange, and then I'm going to use a little more white, and I have a little more yellow and a little more red, so I can mix around with the orange, because we want every letter or every part of the letters to be a different shade of orange. But I'm going to go with this to start with. It looks pretty good, but yes, we could use a little more white to mix in with it. We'll put the white over here. And a little more yellow. We should have enough red for a little while. And let's get to painting this in. This looks really cool. I'm going to be really happy with it. And I think I've got to switch though to a smaller brush. We'll go with this one just to make it so that it really paints in well and I get some good lines. So just pick out whichever spot you want to be, you know, every different shade, or each different shade. Just pick out wherever you want it to be. Doesn't really matter, but now kind of do your best to keep the lines perfect. But it doesn't really matter that much though if you don't get it all perfect. Art is never perfect. That's why it's beautiful. Let's get this orange in there. And if you have a lighter color that you're going over a darker color with, like you can see there's a little bit here where the blue is peeking through, just let this dry again and then go over it with like a second coat, and it should cover it up well. If that bothers you. If it doesn't, just leave it. It'll be fine. But if you want it to be perfectly covered, go ahead and just let it dry and then repaint it another time. Because it's a lighter color going over a darker color, it'll see through on at least the first coat. But usually the second coat will cover that up, if that's what you want. There we go. Looks pretty good. Do see a little bit of blue coming through there, but I'm fine with that. All right, so I'd have to make another shade of orange. So I take this and we'll mix it over here with some white. Just kind of scoop out a little bit of orange and mix it in with some white over here. We'll see what that looks like. My tactic for doing these different shades is just kind of mix with one color, see how that looks, and then add a little bit of another color to get another shade, and just kind of go on down the line. I think I'll put this one over here. Oh, I forgot to do this part over here I'll have to go back and do that. Let's get this one down first though, because I've already got this color on my brush. And when you add white to a color, it makes it more opaque. So you might not have to repaint parts of it if you have a little bit of white in there. Opaque means that it isn't see-through. So I can kind of see through this a little bit, but not much. That looks pretty good there though. We got our O started. Now I got to clean off my brush and go back in and do that one spot that I missed. Go back in here and get this spot of the O. But the letters here can be whatever you want. Could be your initials, like I said, or a word, or your name. As long as it's not too long, it's got to be able to fit on our canvas. And I find anything more than 4 letters or so gets to be a little harder to plan out. So keep it simple. All right, I got 2 of these spaces done. I'm going to go ahead and pause now and just go ahead and fill in the rest of them, and we'll see it when it comes back to that. Okay, we've got our finished painting here. It looks great. As you can see, the letters really stand out from that blue, and that's why you use complementary colors. If you want something to stand out a lot, put it next to its complementary color. In this case, we have orange and blue. You could have red and green, or purple and yellow. Any of those will make each other stand out a lot. Those combinations, those complementary color combinations, really make things stand out and pop on your canvas. So if you want something to stand out, put a complementary color right next to it. It'll really make it come out and make it really vibrant and alive. So this was a little shorter of a lesson today, but we had to work on our complementary colors, and I just thought this would be a fun painting to do. Mine came out great. I hope yours did too. I'd love to see it. And of course, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email and let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.